Can XRP's price appreciate by 2030 without the domino theory ever completely coming to fruition? Yeah, I think that, it would see some adoption, but you're not going to get the big exponential move without that happening. There will be some supply and demand shock as the ETFs continue to eat through what's available on OTC and dark pools. And once that's gone, the volume will have to move to exchanges. But if there's not outsized demand by the exchanges and by markets and by institutions and potentially retail, all at the same time, you're not going to get an exponential move. I think it's going to be that way because I believe that it needs to be a very high price for them to start using it, and for them to be able to push it to that price. Really, supply and demand is the only way that they're going to be able to do that. You could, people have talked about a repricing or a pegging of XRP. It needs to be dynamic and fluid. If it is fixed or stagnant, like it would be if it was pegged, it doesn't provide the same bandwidth over the long term. You could escalate volume up to whatever that price was. And then if you needed to continue to add more volume to the network for it to continue to scale and meet the new demands of markets, that were being tokenized, real world assets. Again, I've told you guys, I believe by the end of 2030, 80% of the global value will be tokenized. That's not that far from now. I mean, really just 4 years away. I believe that so 5 years, by the end of 2030, 80% of the globe is tokenized. And that's a lot of value moving on chain. XRP, I believe, will settle all of that back end. And so for it to do that, I mean, you would need the price to continue to escalate with the additional volume, but it really can't even start moving, utilizing the utility or continuing to escalate because of the volume on the network until you kickstart it. A good example of this, we're going to do an event with Canary Capital for the mastermind. When talking with them, they really need an ETF to be $100 million to start getting institutional adoption. And the reason for that is no pension fund or other regulated entity can own more than 10% of an ETF. And their smallest check size that they cut is around $10 million. So for them, they've got to get to critical mass before they can even get the adoption of the institutions. Now, I view XRP very similarly. It needs to get to critical mass. It needs to have enough liquidity in it before they can start using it in a meaningful capacity to continue to drive adoption and price appreciation. And so all of that being stated, I don't think that it's going to be fixed or pegged. I think that they're going to have to use supply and demand dynamics to push it to a very high price in a very short period of time, because that's the only way that it's really going to work and get the adoption. If that doesn't happen, it's not going to see the high prices that we've talked about.